For more than 25 years, one simple scene kept repeating in the small rehabilitation clinic at the edge of town. Older men and women arrived in two very different ways. Some walked through the door on their own, steady, careful, but independent. Others were guided in by a son, a daughter, or a worried spouse, one arm under the elbow, one hand on the back, moving slowly as if each step might crumble beneath them. The staff always treated them with the same respect, the same gentle smile, but deep down, there was one question that never went away. Why did some people keep their legs strong into their 70s and 80s while others, the same age, from the same neighborhoods, seemed to get weaker every single month? Over time, the answer became painfully clear. It was not just pain, it was not simply age, and it was really bad luck. The quiet difference was leg strength slipping away week by week while daily life looked almost the same. And this slow loss showed up in small, almost invisible moments. A man in his early 60s needed an extra second to stand from a favorite chair. A grandmother glanced at the stairs and reached for the railing without thinking. A retired teacher paused before stepping off the curb, waiting for the light even when no cars were coming. A woman who once moved through her kitchen with ease began touching the counter as she turned. Just to be safe, she told herself, this may sound familiar, and if they do, it is important to hear this clearly. These are not just normal signs of getting older. They are early warnings from your muscles, quiet messages that your legs are losing strength and control. Even if you feel mostly fine, there is a medical name for this slow loss of muscle. Doctors call it sarcopenia. But you do not need the big word to feel what it does. After about 60, the body naturally begins to lose muscle mass and power, especially in the legs. Clinical research from major aging clinics shows that older adults can lose several % of leg strength each year if the muscles are not challenged in the right way. That means weakness does not politely wait until your 80s. It begins now, softly, while you still cook, still walk, still live your daily life. And here is where well-meaning advice often fails people. Many have been told, just walk more, get your steps in, stay active. That is enough. Walking is wonderful for the heart, for blood flow, for mood and brain health. And if you walk, you should be proud of that habit. But research from large university studies has shown something uncomfortable. Regular walking by itself does not fully protect the strength and power in your lower body, the very strength that lets you stand up without help, catch yourself when you trip, or lower yourself into a chair without falling into it. In other words, you can walk every day and still notice your legs getting weaker. That is not your fault. That is incomplete advice, because muscle does not respond to gentle movement alone. It responds to resistance, to being asked to work against a little bit of challenge. Especially after 60, the nervous system quietly begins to turn on fewer fast muscle fibers unless you deliberately call them into action. The quick response muscles around your hips, knees, and ankles, the ones that keep you from falling when a bus suddenly bumps the curb or a grandchild runs into your leg. These are often the first to fade. Once they weaken, the body learns to move more slowly, more carefully, and sometimes more fearfully. That is when confidence begins to slip away. Most people say, I am just slowing down, but inside they feel something deeper, a quiet worry that one wrong step could change everything. The real issue we are talking about today is not looking fit, not chasing a younger body. The real issue is independence. The ability to walk to the bathroom without calling someone, to rise from your favorite chair without pushing hard on the arms, to climb a few steps without your heart racing from fear, not from effort, to bend slightly to tie a shoe without feeling that you might not get back up. Now here is the hopeful part, and it is very important. This decline can be slowed, it can be improved, and in many people it can be meaningfully reversed. And no, it does not require a gym, heavy weights, or complex machines. In fact, some of the safest and most powerful movements for adults over 60 can be done in the same place you read the morning paper, from a simple, sturdy chair. In this video, the narrator will walk through several chair-based exercises that directly target the biggest trouble spots for aging legs. the muscles that help you stand, the ones that keep you steady when you sway, the muscles that lift your feet so you do not shuffle or catch your toes, the ones that control how you sit down so you do not drop suddenly. Each movement is simple, gentle, and can be adjusted for different levels of strength. And one particular exercise, a single easy move you can do while seated, stands above the rest for waking up the whole leg chain. The narrator will explain that one clearly when the time comes. Before any movement even starts, it helps to picture a real person at the center of this story. Her name is Margaret. She is 68, a retired librarian who loved long walks through the park path lined with old oaks. For most of her life, she did not think much about her legs. They simply did what she asked. She had her first real scare one rainy afternoon. She stepped off a low curb outside the grocery store. The ground was slick and her foot slid forward a little too fast. Her body tilted. Time seemed to slow. She managed to catch herself, one hand slamming against the side of the car, her shopping bag swinging wildly. She did not fall, but her heart pounded as if she had run up a hill. Later that week, she noticed something else. When she rose from her living room chair, she needed to rock forward and push on the arms. "What is wrong with me?" she whispered one night, sitting alone at the kitchen table. "I walk, I stay busy. Do my legs feel so unsure?" Her doctor checked her joints, her heart, her blood tests. "You are doing quite well for your age," he said kindly. "Just be careful, move slowly, use the railing." Margaret nodded, but the words did not comfort her. They sounded like instructions for someone preparing to give up ground, not claim it back. A few weeks later, while searching online late at night, she saw a simple line on the screen: "Over 60, your legs may be getting weaker every week, even if you feel fine." She froze because that sentence felt like it had been written about her. She clicked the video, listened as the narrator explained exactly what she was living: the slower stands, the careful steps, the quiet fear. For the first time, she heard that walking alone was not enough to keep her legs strong, and that there were special chair movements, safe ones, that could help her rebuild strength without leaving her home. If any of Margaret's story sounds familiar, if you have noticed yourself grabbing for furniture, taking smaller steps, or feeling less sure on stairs, know this: you are not alone and you are not broken. Your body is simply following its natural pattern, a pattern that can be changed with gentle, targeted work right where you are sitting. In a moment, the narrator will guide through specific movements and will highlight one simple chair exercise that helps reverse weekly weakness by teaching your legs to push again safely. Before going further, it would be helpful for the narrator to know who is listening. If you feel comfortable, take a moment after this video to write your age and where you are watching from in the comments. Many older adults read those messages and feel less alone just seeing others their age taking action. Now, as this story continues, remember one key idea: strength after 60 is not about doing more, it is about doing what matters. Small, precise movements that wake sleeping muscles and restore the trust between your brain and your legs. In the next part of this story, Margaret will sit in her simple wooden chair by the window and discover the first gentle exercises that begin to change how her legs feel each time she stands. And as you listen, you may want to imagine your own favorite chair, because soon you will hear exactly how to use it as the safest little gym you have ever owned. The next morning, Margaret pulled her sturdy wooden chair a little closer to the window. The light from the yard fell across the floor, tracing a soft square on the carpet. She sat down slowly, feeling the familiar protest in her thighs as she lowered herself. For a moment, she almost closed the browser and told herself she was too old to start something new. Then she remembered the cold fear from the near fall at the grocery store. She took a quiet breath and whispered, "I am not ready to give up walking on my own." The narrator on the screen spoke gently, reminding her and everyone listening that before starting any new exercise, especially over 60, it is wise to speak with a doctor or health professional. The movements would be small and careful, but safety always comes first. The narrator then described the first simple movement, one that many people mistake for too easy, but that plays a powerful role in daily life. Margaret listened closely. The exercise was called the seated leg straighten. 8. A gentle movement that wakes the front of the thigh, the muscles that help you stand, walk downhill, and steady yourself when you step off a curb. These muscles at the front of the thigh. The narrator explained, are your body's natural elevator. They help lift you up from the chair and control you as you sit down. When they weaken, even a simple rise can feel heavy. Clinical research from aging clinics around the world has linked low strength in these thigh muscles with trouble moving around the home, higher risk of falls, and even more hospital visits after small injuries. But the hopeful side is just as clear. Studies show that gentle, repeated straightening of the knee against light resistance can slowly rebuild strength, even in people well into their 70s and 80s. The narrator guided Margaret through it. Sit tall in your chair, both feet flat on the floor. Slide your hips back so your back is supported. Place your hands gently on your thighs or beside you for balance. Now, slowly straighten one leg in front of you, lifting the foot off the floor until the knee is as straight as feels comfortable. Do not jerk or rush. Imagine your foot is moving through thick, warm water. Take about 2 seconds to lift. Pause for a moment when the leg is out. Then slowly lower your foot back down, taking 3 slow seconds to return. That lowering part is very important. It tells the muscle to grow stronger. Margaret followed carefully. Her right leg trembled slightly at the top. That is enough for now, she murmured. She lowered her foot, feeling a warm, gentle fatigue she had not noticed in years. The narrator suggested starting with 8 to 10 repetitions on each leg, 1 or 2 rounds, once a day, resting if any pain appeared. You should feel work, not sharp pain. The voice said calmly. Margaret completed 7 on each side. Her legs felt awake, as if someone had turned on a small light inside them. The narrator then shared another key movement, one that people almost never think about until it fails. The seated heel lift. Margaret raised an eyebrow. My calves, she whispered, glancing down at her lower legs. I thought those were just for running and high heels. The narrator explained that the muscles in the back of the lower leg, the calf muscles, like quiet balance guardians, they help control your ankle when you sway, when a bus stops suddenly, or when the floor slopes slightly. Research from Balance Laboratories and rehabilitation units has shown that weak calf muscles are closely related to poor balance and more frequent falls in older adults, even those who still walk every day. The good news, the narrator continued, is that you can train them safely while seated. Margaret sat up a little taller, ready to learn. Place both feet flat on the floor, about hip width apart. The narrator said, keep your toes down and slowly lift your heels as high as you comfortably can. Imagine you are gently rising onto tiptoes while sitting. Take 2 seconds to rise. Pause for a heartbeat at the top. Then lower your heels back to the floor over 3 seconds. Feel the back of your lower legs working as you do this. Margaret tried it. The movement seemed small, almost too small to matter. But after 10 steady lifts, a warm ache spread through her calves. I did not know I could feel these muscles from a chair. She thought. The narrator suggested performing 10 to 15 of these heel lifts, 1 or 2 rounds, resting between sets. In time, the voice added, if you feel balanced and safe, you can lift one heel at a time to challenge each side. But there is no rush. Consistent, gentle practice is more important than pushing hard. Margaret paused the video, looked at her legs, and felt something new, not just tiredness, but a sense of purpose. These were not random moves. They were connected to specific parts of her daily life. Standing, stepping, staying steady, she whispered. So this is how I ask my muscles to stay with me. After resting for a moment, she pressed the play again. The narrator now spoke about the muscles that often cause shuffling when they weaken, the ones that help you lift your knees and clear your feet with each step. Think of every time your foot has caught on a rug or a small lip in the doorway. The voice said, this next movement helps with that. The exercise was called seated marching, and Margaret quickly understood why. Sit up tall without leaning back if you can. The narrator instructed, keep your hands on your thighs or the sides of the chair for balance. Slowly lift one knee toward your chest, only as high as you can control without leaning or twisting. Take 2 seconds to lift Then gently lower your foot back down over 3 seconds. Now switch legs one side, then the other like a quiet march in place. Margaret followed along. The first few lifts felt awkward. Her right hip clicked softly, but there was no pain, just stiffness. She moved carefully. These marching movements, the narrator explained, wake the muscles at the front of the hip and the deep muscles that support your pelvis. They help you lift your feet clear of the floor so you do not drag or shuffle. Clinical trials have shown that when older adults strengthen these areas, their steps become smoother and their risk of stumbling on small bumps or rugs can drop. Margaret slowly completed 8 lifts per leg, breathing a little louder now. If this feels difficult, the narrator reassured, that does not mean you are weak. It simply means your body is learning something new over time. This movement teaches your legs and core to work together. Again, Margaret pressed pause and rested back, her hands folded in her lap. Outside, a breeze moved the branches of the oak tree, leaves rustling softly against the glass. For a moment she closed her eyes and pictured herself walking down the park path again, not hurrying, just steady, without fear of her feet catching the ground. The narrator's voice echoed in her mind, strength after 60 is not about becoming an athlete. It is about keeping the freedom to move through your own life, one careful step at a time. For anyone listening along with Margaret, the narrator suggested a simple plan. Start with these 3 movements within the same short sessions. Seated leg straighten, seated heel lift, and seated marching. Perform them slowly, with care, perhaps 3 or 4 days each week, and always listen to the body. You may want to save this video, the narrator gently advised, so you can come back to these exercises regularly. Many viewers over 60 tell us they follow along with the same routine several times a week and notice real changes over a few months. If this feels useful so far, consider tapping the like button so more older adults can find this information. And if you want steady, clear guidance for staying strong and independent, you may wish to subscribe for future sessions. Margaret heard the suggestion and thought of others her age, friends who already avoided stairs. She made a quiet promise to share what she learned if it helped her. As she stood up from the chair to make tea, she noticed something small yet powerful. She did not push as hard with her hands. It was not a miracle, just a hint that something inside her legs had woken up. She smiled to herself. Maybe my body is not finished learning after all. She murmured. In the next part of this story, Margaret will discover one more crucial movement, the gentle control of sitting down and standing up. And then the simple chair exercise that ties all of her strength together, the one that helps her legs remember how to protect her when life moves suddenly. Margaret returned to her chair the following afternoon. The steam from her tea curled gently in the light. She felt a slight soreness in her thighs and calves. Not sharp, just a reminder that her muscles had worked. She touched the armrest and smiled. You are waking up, she whispered to her legs, then opened the video again. The narrator's voice greeted her and every listener with the same calm tone. If you joined us for the first 3 chair movements, your legs have already begun sending new messages to your brain. Today we add 2 more pieces, and one of them may be the most important movement in your daily life. Margaret leaned forward, curious. The narrator spoke about something many people never think about until it becomes a problem, the act of sitting down and standing up under control. When you drop into a chair with a thud or feel like you are falling the last few inches. The voice explained, it is a sign that the powerful muscles in the back of your hips and thighs are not slowing you down the way they should. These muscles, often called the glutes and hamstrings, do far more than shape the body. They are your brakes. They protect you when you lower yourself, when you change direction, when you go down a step or small slope. Clinical research from fall prevention clinics has found that older adults who struggle to sit slowly are much more likely to experience balance-related accidents in the months that follow. The hopeful news is that the skill of controlled sitting can be trained in a simple chair at home without heavy effort. The narrator guided Margaret through what they called the quiet sit and rise. Sit at the front half of your chair. The voice said, feet flat on the floor, about hip up width apart, keep your knees in line with your toes, place your hands lightly across your chest, hovering just over the armrests if you need them for safety. Now lean your body slightly forward from the hips as if you are about to stand. Press your feet gently into the floor and lift yourself just a few inches, not all the way. Then slowly lower your hips back toward the seat. Imagine you are trying to sit without making a sound. Take 4 or 5 seconds to lower yourself. Feel the back of your hips and thighs working to slow you down. Margaret tried it. The first attempt surprised her. Her thighs shook almost immediately, and she landed on the chair with a small bump. "That is more work than it looks," she murmured. The narrator reassured her. "If your legs tremble, that does not mean you are failing. It means you are using muscles that have been resting for too long. Over time, this gentle, slow movement tells them to stay awake for every sit and stand you do." Margaret tried again, this time rising only a little and focusing on the slow, quiet return. She counted softly 1, 2, 3, 4. As she lowered her hips, she felt a deep, spreading effort under her, almost like the muscles were wrapping around the back of her legs. The narrator suggested starting with 6 to 8 quiet sit and rise movements, once every other day, always keeping a firm chair and something stable nearby. The goal is not to rush into a full squat, the voice said. It is to teach your body that you can control gravity instead of letting it pull you down. Margaret finished her small set and rested. She noticed that she felt taller in the chair, more aware of the contact between her feet and the floor, like roots pressing into the earth. Then the narrator's tone shifted slightly, becoming more focused. "We have reached the most overlooked movement of all," the voice said. Simple chair exercise that asks your legs to do something they have almost forgotten, to push firmly and hold the way they must when you catch yourself from falling. Margaret felt her heart pick up. She remembered the near slip outside the grocery store, her hand slamming into the car door. If my legs had been stronger, she thought, maybe I would not have felt so close to the ground. The narrator described the final movement, the gentle seated leg press hold. Sit tall in your chair, back supported if possible, the voice instructed. Place both feet flat on the floor, hip up width apart. Feel your full foot pressing into the ground from the heel through the ball of the foot. Now imagine you are about to stand up, but instead of rising, you press your feet strongly into the floor and hold that push as if you are trying to lift the chair without actually moving. You should feel the front of your thighs, the back of your hips, and even your abdomen joining in. Margaret followed. She took a breath and pressed her feet down carefully, firmly. She felt the muscles in her thighs tense, her hips tighten, her middle brace hold for about 10 seconds. The narrator said, "Breathe normally, do not strain or hold your breath, then gently relax, let your legs soften, and rest for 10 to 20 seconds before repeating." Margaret released the pressure and noticed a gentle heat spreading through her legs, a sense of fullness and strength. This type of exercise, the narrator explained, is called an isometric hold. It is one of the safest ways to ask your muscles and nerves to work hard without moving the joints. Clinical studies in older adults have shown that these gentle pushing holds can improve leg strength and reaction speed, even for people with sore knees or hips, because the joints are not bending under load. Margaret completed 4 more holds, each time pressing her feet into the floor as if she truly intended to stand, then easing off. If you feel dizzy or short of breath, stop and rest, the narrator reminded. Otherwise, you can gradually build up to 5 or 6 holds of 10 to 15 seconds each, once a day or a few times a week. When she finished, Margaret sat in silence for a moment. She felt pleasantly tired. But more than that, she felt engaged with her own body in a way she had not felt in years. Her legs did not feel like strangers, they felt like partners. "So this is how I ask them to protect me," she thought. Outside, a car door closed, a dog barked, life moved as always. But inside that small living room, something had changed. The narrator then gently tied the pieces together for every listener. "Cross these movements," the voice said. "You have asked your thigh muscles to lift and lower you, your calves to steady your ankles, your hips to help you clear your feet, your larger muscles to slow you as you sit, and finally your whole leg to press and hold as if catching you from a stumble. You did not need a gym, heavy weights, or complex equipment. You only needed a safe chair and a few focused minutes. Margaret thought back over the past few weeks when she first clicked the video out of fear, when she first felt the tremble in her legs from a simple leg straighten, when the heel lifts warmed her calves, when the marching made her hips feel alive. Now, with the quiet sit and rise and the strong press hold, she felt like she had been given a small, private map back toward confidence. The narrator offered a simple routine suggestion. On most days of the week, choose 3 to 5 of these chair movements. Do them slowly, listening to your body. You might begin with legs straightened, heel lifts and marching on one day. Then add quiet sit and rise and press holds on another. It is better to do a little often than to push hard and then stop completely. Strength is built by gentle repetition over time. For those listening who felt discouraged by their starting point, the narrator added something important. You are not late, you are not behind, you are exactly where you are, and your muscles can still respond. Even small improvements in leg strength can mean the difference between fearing a fall and trusting your steps. Margaret felt tears sting the corners of her eyes. She thought of her grandchildren, of the park path, of the simple wish to walk into her doctor's office under her own power for as long as possible. She spoke quietly into the empty room. I am not done walking yet. The narrator invited everyone to take one more small step of action beyond the chair. If these movements have helped you even a little, the voice said, consider sharing in the comments which exercise felt most useful. Your story might give courage to someone who is just as afraid as you were. And if you want clear, respectful guidance on staying strong, balanced, and independent, you may choose to subscribe so you do not miss the next gentle session. Margaret decided she would write a short message later. 68, from a small town, and just starting to trust my legs again. She rehearsed in her mind as she rose from the chair to refill her tea. She noticed something that made her pause. She stood up in one smooth motion, her hands hovering above the armrests, but not pushing. There was effort, but there was also control. She looked down at her feet, planted firmly on the floor. Thank you, she whispered, not sure whether she was speaking to the narrator, her own body, or the quiet strength that had always been there, waiting to be called. For anyone still listening, sitting in their own chair, the message was simple. Your legs may have grown quieter over the years, but they are not finished. With careful, consistent chair exercises, you can remind them how to support you, protect you, and carry you through the life you still want to live, one steady, confident step at a time.